Hello first years, we are meeting again. Last time we have seen enzyme inhibition where we saw competitive inhibition and non-competitive inhibition. We just revised non-competitive inhibition. So competitive inhibition was when the enzyme was acting on the substrate, that is free enzyme, and substrate and inhibitor were mimicking each other and then they were in competition. However, non-competitive inhibition was your no competition between substrate and inhibitor. There was no structural resemblance and the inhibitor was acting on both free enzyme and enzyme substrate complex, and the enzyme inhibitor was binding onto an allosteric site. Okay, so we took an example of lead here and then saw that the Km is unaltered in case of non competitive inhibition and Vmax is lowered. Okay, coming to the next type of inhibition, which is reversible inhibition, which is uncompetitive inhibition. What happens in uncompetitive inhibition? In competitive, free enzyme was bounded. In non-competitive, free enzyme as well as enzyme substrate complex was bounded. In the uncompetitive inhibition, specifically only enzyme substrate complex is getting bound. So inhibitor do not have any action on the free enzyme. However, the inhibitor only acts on the enzyme substrate complex to give me enzyme substrate inhibitor complex. And here the inhibitor do not goes and bind to an allosteric site. It can bind to both a normal site as well as allosteric site. So I have enzyme substrate and inhibitor complex in case of uncompetitive inhibition. In non-competitive, it was both free enzyme and enzyme substrate. In uncompetitive, I have enzyme substrate complex getting inhibited to give me enzyme substrate inhibitor complex. Okay, now we have to see what happens to Mr. Km and Mr. Vmax. So coming to our normal Michaels-Menten curve, you can see here that our normal black curve is as the substrate concentration increases, velocity increases. However, the pink curve shows me what happens when I have an uncompetitive inhibitor added to the solution. If that kind of solution is added, my substrate concentration, even if it is increasing, the velocity doesn't increase much. However, the entire graph is lowered. So you can see here, if I draw, my Vmax is lowered, and if I drop a perpendicular from half maximum velocity, my Km is also changing. So from the Michaels-Menten curve, I can see that my Km changes, and from the Lineweaver-Burk plot, I can see both the curve, the normal curve as well as inhibitor curve do not intersect each other, which means Vmax is changing as well as Km is changing. So in competitive inhibition, what had happened? My Km was increasing when Vmax was unaltered. In non-competitive inhibition, what happened? My Vmax was changing and Km was unaltered. And what happens here? Both Km and Vmax are changing. So this is a very important thing to note, that in competitive inhibition, I will go back to competitive inhibition, Km increases, Vmax is unaltered. In non-competitive inhibition, Km is unaltered, Vmax is lowered. So in non-competitive inhibition, your Km was unaltered, whereas Vmax was lowered. And in uncompetitive, which we did today, where inhibitor only acts on enzyme substrate complex, and I have Km changing and Vmax changing as they do not intersect each other in Lineweaver-Burk plot. So we'll have at a glance a comparison of all competitive, non-competitive and competitive inhibition. So we have such a nice presentation of this. So in competitive inhibition, we have an enzyme and a substrate and an inhibitor. They both have a same shape and they compete with each other and they mimic each other for one active site, correct? So I have this kind of a reaction existing where free enzyme react with inhibitor to give me EI, that is enzyme inhibitor complex. And next I have what they write is inhibitor binds to free enzyme and competes with S, increasing S and overcomes the inhibition by I. So this is at one glance what all three inhibition of which are the part of reversible inhibition say. So non-competitive inhibition had two places of binding, an active site and allosteric site. Substrate was binding to an active site and inhibitor was binding to an allosteric site. It was binding to both enzyme as well as enzyme and substrate. So I have two things, enzyme inhibitor and enzyme inhibitor substrate, which is formed, and that is what it is written. And for uncompetitive, even if an enzyme had active site and allosteric site, my inhibitor was attacking not to the free enzyme but only to the enzyme substrate complex. And this inhibitor was going and attaching to the either allosteric site or active site to give me ESI complex. Okay, so what are the different things happening in the Michaels-Menten curve and Lineweaver-Burke plot? So we'll see again the plots. So for competitive inhibition, my normal curve, my inhibitor curve is lower to the normal curve. My Vmax is almost unchanged, whereas Km increases. So you can see through the Michaels-Menten curve that Km is increasing, and through Lineweaver-Burke plot we can see that Vmax is unchanged. For non-competitive inhibition, we have your Km, which is same in the Michaels-Menten curve, whereas my Vmax is changing or decreased. For uncompetitive, the Michaels-Menten curve shows that my Km is changing, and Lineweaver-Burke plot shows that parallel lines, therefore Vmax is also changing. So this is at one side all the three reversible inhibitors, competitive, non-competitive and competitive, are being explained here. I hope everybody is clear. So these are the kinetics, a very important one which we right now discussed. What happens to the Km and what is happening to the Vmax. Okay. So this is what the comparison is shown of the three graphs. All the graphs which we have learned for all the three types of inhibitors are asked in the exam, and it is very important to draw this graph, a well labeled x and y axis along with inhibitor curve, without inhibitor curve, and proper plotting of Km and Vmax fetches you good marks. Okay. Then these all three types were reversible inhibitors. Coming to irreversible inhibitors. What are irreversible inhibitors? As the name suggests, what is irreversible? Something which cannot be reverted. So irreversible inhibitors bind covalently or non-covalently to the enzyme, and they ultimately inactivate them. So till now, whatever inhibitors we learned were not inactivating the enzyme. What were they doing? They were inactivating the enzyme for some point of time, but after the inhibitor concentration was lesser, the substrate used to take over and the product was forming. So they were reversible inhibitors. For some point of time only inhibitors were binding to the enzyme and the inhibition was taking place. But irreversible inhibitors are the ones which ultimately inactivate the enzyme permanently, and they destroy the functional group of the enzyme. Reversible do not destroy, they just bind, block it. But these irreversible ones, they destroy the functional group. You can see from the enzyme, example given here, an active site of an enzyme had serine. Everybody knows serine amino acid has OH. So this is my serine amino acid which has OH, and I have iodoacetamide. Iodoacetamide is one kind of an inhibitor. I'll tell you what is it. So this iodoacetamide has a reaction of the OH reacts with the I of the iodoacetamide, and it inactivates my iodoacetamide. The structure of an iodoacetamide is NH2 C double bond O CH2I. And here I have now CH2OCH3, that is my serine ka OCH3 has come and bound to this, and ultimately because my reaction was between these two, the enzyme active site doesn't have serine now, but a inactivated enzyme which is an iodoacetamide added to the serine OH. So now what happens is these irreversible inhibitors decreases the Vmax. So you can see from the Lineweaver-Burke plot, with inhibitor present wala curve is above the non-inhibitor curve, and hence the Vmax, that is 1 by Vmax, increases, which means Vmax opposite to it is decreasing. So these irreversible inhibitors sometimes are called as suicide inhibition. So what is suicide inhibition? And original inhibitors get converted to a more potent inhibitor. So what does this mean? Like we have seen the concept of prodrug, or we have seen the concept of zymase inhibition, where I have an enzyme which is inactive form, later it gets activated, or a prodrug where it is an inactive drug, later when it goes to a system it gets activated. Similarly, I have an original inhibitor which is doing its own work of inhibition. However, when it goes and when it in the system, it goes and converted to something or some chemical molecule which is still more a potent inhibitor. So example given here is allopurinol, an inhibitor of xanthine oxidase. Everybody must have learned xanthine oxidase as an enzyme in nucleic acid metabolism, and allopurinol is its potent inhibitor. So when allopurinol inhibits xanthine oxidase, it gets converted into alloxanthine. So alloxanthine is an product after allopurinol getting added up to xanthine oxidase का active site. However, this alloxanthine is still more effective inhibitor of this particular enzyme. So inhibitor is inhibiting its own enzyme, और जो product बन रहा है वो और ज़्यादा inhibit कर रहा है. So it ultimately leads to a suicide inhibition. Okay, so this was all about the entire enzyme chapter. So we have dealt in this video uncompetitive inhibition, reversible inhibition, and suicide inhibition. Okay, thank you so much.